I will give you some alpha on this. The Federal Reserve's been printing money on the down low. We just caught them. So we've known like the middle of this year, right? There was problems with all the banks and stuff like that, especially like we had Silvergate, we had a lot of these kind of Silicon Valley banks that went down that were not crypto related. These were banks that had to do with all the money printing that happened during 2021. I always want to say 2001, but 2021 that there were money printing. A lot of these VC funds invested into a lot of basically tech startups, and pretty much what's called people from the PayPal mafia ended up figuring out like, oh, dude, these banks might be undercapitalized because they're so levered out long, because these banks, for some dumbass reason, were buying mortgage-backed securities at the all-time lows. That's like literally buying Bitcoin at like $68,000. Bro, the reason the banks got in so much trouble, they took all their money and bought Bitcoin at $68,000. Homies. That's what happened. And oof, that was bad. And then that crashed. They were undercapitalized. So the Federal Reserve ended up creating these swap lines where basically you could, if you have these bonds, we'll take your mortgage-backed securities at the all-time highs or lows, depending how you look at it, and we'll give you equal cash for it, and they kind of bailed out the banks. But recently, the Federal Reserve has printed $158 billion and secretly gave it to the FDIC, who are then there giving that money out to some of these banks. So basically, there was a mini bank bailout that just happened that we just don't even know about. So the Federal Reserve this year so far has like rolled off $1 trillion of their holdings by not buying anymore, just letting these bonds mature. But on top of that, they just took 15% of that money and just sent it to the FDIC to give to these banks on the low. So there was literally a secret bank bailout that just happened that we don't know about, and we're gonna keep in tabs on it. But it's pretty crazy because like, bro, barely anybody is talking about that right there. The Federal Reserve is like didn't increase interest rates, but they printed 15% of $1 trillion. I mean, like, well, not $1 trillion, but like of $100 million, $100 billion. Pretty significant, man. I mean, like, actually, no, it was 15% of $1 trillion. What am I talking about? Yeah, insane. It is pretty wild, man. Dude, that's how you sometimes forget how much money these guys are playing around with. It was 15% of $1 trillion. That's a shit ton of money, you guys. Bro, you guys, if they just broke me off a tenth of that, a crumb, a crimble, a 1%, a fraction of a percent of that, bro. Man, I'll share equally with all you guys. No, Miguel, just buy eHex one shot. No. So the Fed basically just started a bank bailout, $158 billion bank bailout on the low. Very few people caught on to it. Your boy Jesucristo caught on to it, and it's gonna be interesting. So the Fed, it's very unlikely on the next Fed meeting, December 13th. We're probably basically it's almost 100%. We're not going to get an increase to the Fed interest rates. So that means the next Fed interest rate increases are probably going to happen in the first quarter, or that's it. And then from there, we're probably going to have a late Q3 reduction to the interest rates finally, because we're in election season, you guys. Pretty interesting.